Designing a website from scratch isn't easy, but today I've got a really cool design that I wanted to share with you guys. It's actually a redesign of a website you guys will most likely have seen before. And that's right, it's this one just here, the Traversy Media website. I wanted to take my own spin at trying to create a design for it. And in this video, I'm going to take you through the whole process of how I came up with this design, the thinking that goes behind the UI and the research, and the final solution as well. So I hope you guys enjoy it. Hit like, hit subscribe, and let's just jump straight into it. What I like to do before doing any redesign is making sure I have a good understanding of what's currently there so that we're making a better version of it and not just another iteration. So in order to do that, we're really going to review the current website, the YouTube channel, and maybe even other people in this field to see what we can do to make it better. And after we do that, we'll place it all in maybe a Figma board. And these ideas we can carry across when we do our wireframing. To start off with, if we take a look at the YouTube channel, we can see that we're using a strong blue color, and this is sort of the theme for the YouTube channel. We can see that represented also in the logo, and we have a lot of circles here as some of the design aesthetics that we're using. We have a lot of the content here, and the content is in terms of web development, crash courses, and stuff like that. If we jump onto the website now, we can see that a lot of that carries across. We do have the same logo, but in this case, the color changes a little bit. It's now a red and a white with a black background. And the red probably represents that there is a YouTube channel, which is indicated at the top right with account. If we scroll down, we get more information about all the courses that are available on Udemy, and we've got links to that as well. If we keep scrolling through, we get some information about Brad and the channel, as well as links to some of the social media, and finally some links to the larger crash courses that are available. And this summarizes the website right now. It is a single page, but it's sort of a lead to most of the content that is available through Traversy Media. There are other people in this space which also have websites, and they'll also be catering to the same target audience, so we can pull in some ideas of what they're doing with their content. One that I wanted to check out is Dev Ed, and he's got a website here, and it's really pretty straight to the point. From what I can see, it's just a nice large header image, and for this hero image, he's just got one call to action, which is to enroll now. And then he just has 3 courses here, which link directly to those courses. And while this doesn't have as much information on the homepage, it is still quite clear and simple. We also have Fireship.io, and they work on a slightly different layout. Their menu here is actually on the left, and they have a majority of the courses available straight in as you scroll down. You can also select through a large full screen search page, but this gives us an idea of another way we can design this sort of a homepage. We also have the Net Ninja, and the Net Ninja, if we have a look here, has a lot of links here at the top with a lot of text and stuff going on this page. But if we scroll down just a little bit, we can see that the tutorials are straight up next with a link to all the tutorials, as well as things like the sponsors that are available down below. If we select here for more tutorials, we can see that there are quite a few, and what I like about this example is that you can actually filter them here by the type of tutorial, as well as maybe the title or the date they're due, as well as a search. So that's a good idea to be able to implement maybe into a future website. So let's take these ideas and have a look at start creating a wireframe to be able to develop them into a new website design for the Traversy Media channel. What I'm going to do now is open up Figma, and Figma is sort of like a design tool, similar to Adobe XD and a little bit like Photoshop used to be, but it allows you to design directly through a web client with a web interface, and I'll show you more or less how it works. We're going to log in, and we're going to create a new page here for the Traversy Media design. On this Figma board, we're going to start pasting in screenshots of the kind of content we're going to be working with. So in this case, I'm going to just copy over the homepage here for the website as well as the YouTube channel. And later we can have a look at how we can define new levels of content for this. For the time being, it's just there so that we see what we're working at. The other thing I want to be able to do is figure out and grab some inspiration. Now, for me to do this, normally I like to go to a website called Dribbble with 3 B's, and over here at dribbble.com, you'll get lots of UI, essentially, designs for websites, for content, for apps. And what I do is I actually filter it here by what's currently popular. We'll jump in here to the right for web design, and we'll select some more filters here to select time frame for the last year. This way we can take a look at all the popular trends of what currently is happening in the design space. I'm going to pull over a few ones that I like. So this one here, for example, is quite clean. So I'm going to grab a copy of that one. I'm also going to grab this one over here because this has lots of products and we could reuse that kind of style there for courses as well. As we scroll down, we do get quite a number of different design aesthetics, and sometimes it's just good to be able to browse through here and copy over what you like and what you think will work for the design you're working with. For now, I'm going to copy over this one here and paste this into the Figma board as an idea that I like for the design. And I'll copy over this one over here as well, and we'll paste that also into our board. With these two designs, we can also fill this whole space out with a lot more, but it gives you an idea of what you're after. I also like this one here, where we've got a bit of a background with sort of a vertical space here where our items are coming across sort of like what you see in Stripe. And I think that has a really cool look to it. So I'm going to copy that here to the Figma board as well. I think that should be enough to get us started. And to begin with, what I want to be able to do is just the layout here for the home page. So at the top here, I'm going to select frame and I'm going to select a desktop. But I'm going to resize this a little bit. For the width, I'm going to do 1980. And for the height, I'm also going to do 1980. We can expand out the height a little bit more later on, but this can be our very first board here, which can be our home page. And this is where I'll start doing up the design. We can place this anywhere. I'm just going to place it very close to most of the content we have here, and we can pull some inspiration from some of these designs here. Now, the first thing we want to be able to do is grab the logo here for Traversing Media, and this will be inside of our design here. The first thing I'm going to do is jump onto the YouTube channel and actually copy over the image here for the logo. I'm just going to paste this in here. We can see that this is a circle. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create another circle in here, and this will be the element we really want to play with. When we had a look at the designs, we can see that a lot of them are very clear and simple these days, and straight to the point. I did really like this one with all the circles, so I want to draw some inspiration from that one when we're designing this new design here. So I'm going to actually copy over the primary color here for the logo, which is the outline. And maybe we'll place that somewhere in here. We might actually give it a slight opacity of maybe 33%. And I'm just going to place it in here just like that, with the logo maybe here near the top right. One thing we can do is actually apply columns by selecting the grid layout over here, hitting plus, selecting maybe columns, doing 12 columns with maybe a center and 100 width here, and maybe a gutter of 15 pixels. And we can play around with that a little bit later, but we'll turn those off for now and we'll have a look at adding them in a little bit later. For now, I just want to sort of play around with the design aesthetic. So this will be maybe applying this circle in here, but making a little bit larger. So it's sort of representing that sort of aesthetic we're going for. I'm going to do this at a 15% opacity, and I'm going to add in another one over here maybe, which will intertwine with the logo, so the logo is able to stand out a little bit more. Let's place the logo in here, and I'm going to select this as multiply just so that for the time being the color of white doesn't bleed through there. But that should be just over here somewhere. Now with this done, I might even give this a bit of a linear gradient. And when we apply a linear gradient, we can essentially get something that looks a little bit more interesting, depending on which direction that linear gradient is applying. But for this one here, I'm applying it actually from the top, and it's going all the way down. I'm going to create a third circle here, And what I'm thinking is I'll just apply it here on the left. And I think that should be okay. So that's looking pretty good. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to put in the menu here at the very top. And this will be just over here. So for the menu, I might grab the darkest shade of the blue tint here that we're working with. And I might make that grid layout visible. And when we do, we can see where we can apply that menu. So in this case, I'm going to keep it to the grid structure here, and I'm going to make this a height of maybe 60 pixels. I'm just going to make it about 100 pixels from the top. So I'll just pass in 100 here. And then I'll have the logo slightly center in these two columns here. I could make it a little bit bigger or smaller based on what we're feeling, but for the time being, I think that should do. And we can get rid of the grid layout now. We can have a look at how that looks. So that's looking pretty good. In terms of the menu background, I'll have to see if we want something darker or lighter. Like we could pull over this dark shade over here so it really stands out. And we can make the text items in there white just so that they're quite visible. So we'll type in home in here using the text select tool. I'm going to do that a font size of 18 pixels, or we could even increase that to 24. Let's actually zoom into 100% here so we can see what that looks like in proper detail. So I'm going to jump over here and we're going to grab this text element. We'll place that in here once more with the color home here. And I'm just going to place that like that. Now we can copy across a few of these elements. So if we have a look here, we've got courses, about, Patreon. So let's actually copy those across. Courses, about. And when we're spacing these, ideally we should space them maybe consistently. So 10, 20, 30 pixels here. Let's grab this one, 10, 20, 30 pixels. We could even give this another 10 units or 10 pixels. And finally, let's do the last few here. So this is Patreon and guests. Let's have a look here. Patreon and guests. And the last section here, I think was, let's have a look here. YouTube. Beautiful. So that looks like most of it there. We can start having a look at making it more visible when we're on an active item. So for example, the home is usually where you start off with. So for this rectangle, I'm going to copy it across and I'm going to shrink it down to this section where we have the home. So let's just actually shrink it down here. And I'm going to give this a slight different tint, maybe a lighter color, just so that we can see that's the active state there. And then I'm going to shrink down this menu, or maybe what we could do is if we have a look here, we actually do have a button here for YouTube. So we could add that button in as well. So let's actually pull up our homepage here. We'll make our grid section visible once more, and we'll shrink this down. And maybe later on we can have a little grid section there for a button or something like that. We could even make it a little bit smaller so that it's got 2 units in there. So let's actually drop this down to 20 pixels. And I'll put this down just a little bit. And for each one of these, maybe I'll drop the pixel margins or gutters here by about 10 pixels. And that should give us enough room to close out this menu so that these 2 columns here can be directly for a YouTube section, which we can fill out later with a nice strong red color. So let's actually hide the column design over here now and take another look at that. So that menu is starting to look a little bit better. If we take a look at what we had before, it's a little bit more in front of the content. We could make this home section here for the active state a little bit smaller, and we could make the home section here have a medium thickness just so that it stands out a little bit more too. I think that looks pretty good. Now here on the right, we do want a YouTube link with maybe how many subscribers. So in this case, let's copy over a section here. and place this in YouTube. And over here, 1M. So let's copy paste this over with a slightly lighter version. And let's put this as 1M. And we'll put this font color here as black. I'm just gonna drag it across here. We can update this count in the future, but it's just there as a representation of the YouTube channel. And I think that's good. So that's our menu done. And I don't think we even need the Traversy Media text in here. Most people know this icon is Traversy Media. And when you become more popular and your branding is better, just like McDonald's and other brands, then the logo sort of represents the entire brand. So this is a good starting point. In this next part, I'm going to actually fast forward the video because a lot of these things that I'm going to be doing now will take a lot longer. What I'm doing here is having a look and feel on how I'm going to create the hero banner. And the hero banner can usually be done in a number of ways. What normally you get with a hero banner is a nice large image, but I decided to do a different take on that. And instead I made a nice number of lots of tiny small images. The Traversy Media channel is doing a lot more content with a lot more creators these days. And I really wanted to display that directly in the banner there. So this is how I've sort of structured it. I rotated it out a little bit just so that it feels like it's a little bit dynamic there. And then I worked on the hero text. Now, since we don't have the Traversy Media title on the logo in the navigation at the top, I've actually decided to put it there on the hero banner. So I'm just adjusting the navigation a little bit just to display that. And what I want to do is figure out the best look and feel where we can blend in the menu, the logo, the call to action with the title for our hero image, as well as the hero image itself. I've actually pushed it up a little bit so it overlays on the menu because this is actually a trend that a lot of people do. And finally, I want to throw in the YouTube channel there at the very top of the navigation. And this is more to just recognize that there are 1 million subscribers and that number is only growing. It builds to the reputation of the overall brand as well as gives people an introduction if they were viewing this for the very first time to see that YouTube is a very large and prominent part for Traversy Media. Now I have got a call to action there, which is view courses. And now we're moving on to the next section. And for the next section, I wanted to display some of the content that we already have on the YouTube channel. This is usually the entry point for most people when they're beginning to discover Traversy Media. So the way I'm doing this is actually I'm going to create a little search navigation section here. And this search will help you find exactly the course you might be after if you're just browsing through the YouTube channel. So I've done this with a small text input, and I thought I'd do a dark theme for this so that we can see that it's a different section to the website. I've actually pulled in the primary color there just so that it looks a little bit better, and I've adjusted the styling so that the input and all the rest of it sort of adheres to the same styling that we have for the navigation and the button. So it's got a bit of that border radius coming across. Now that we have that text input with a nice big search button, I'm gonna start putting some YouTube channel videos in here. I've actually grabbed the aspect ratio for a thumbnail and I've just put it in there. I'm gonna copy across some of the thumbnails we used in our hero banner, and I'm going to overlay these, maybe even mask them on top here. And we'll give this maybe some visual adjustment. Sometimes it's good to maybe add a gradient in there just so that we can have some text that stands out a little bit. And sometimes it's better to have the text just below. So it's really just playing around with those elements to see which ones look better or worse. I also thought it'd be useful if we have small tags underneath each video to really outline whether you're learning HTML or CSS or JavaScript in each one. And this also makes it visually a bit more interesting, especially when you're selecting through videos and sometimes you're not sure what you're getting in the video. It gives you essentially a bit of metadata that you can play around with. The only problem with this is that when you do have a lot of videos and a lot of titles and descriptions, sometimes it's a little bit overwhelming when you have a lot of tags. So I've put a small filter here at the very top where you can filter through what type of tag you might be looking for. And I've also pulled those tags up into the thumbnail of the video. So that way we've got a bit more room essentially for this section so that you can see it a bit more clearly. And this just about wraps up the design for this page. So let's take a quick look at it. We've got our nice logo there at the very top left, as well as our navigation on the top right. And of course, we've got the YouTube channel, which should be clickable and it'll take you straight to the YouTube channel for those people who might not know about Traversy Media. We've got our hero banner, and I really wanted to show off just how much videos and content there is on the Traversy Media channel, and I think this does a good job to do that. And of course, we have a call to action there so that we can view for more courses if you want some premium content. Below, you can actually browse through some of those videos because sometimes the YouTube search system isn't that great at being able to find that kind of content. And coupled with the meta tags and the amount of content that's out there, that search system should be pretty useful for people coming in. In future videos, we might take a look at expanding out the rest of this design because this is essentially just the content above the fold. And this means the first bit of content that you see when you view a web page. In the future videos, we might expand out the design to the full page as well as other pages as well. But I hope you guys enjoyed this so far. If you did, hit like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Thank you.